Hey everyone, Justin here, and in this video I'm going to be covering the 5 resources to get you started in web development. As a computer science teacher, I'm always looking and searching for the best resources for my students year to year, and I always seem to go back to these same 5 sites over and over again. So I thought I'd share them with you and help you on your journey to becoming a great web developer. Now, when you hear that term web developer or web development, what does that mean? Well, that refers to a person using languages like HTML, CSS, JavaScript for your front end, and possibly PHP, Python, ASP for the back end to run a database with a language like SQL. Now that differs from a web designer who uses applications like Photoshop or Illustrator to come up with a nice and cohesive design that gets passed to the web developer. Now once you have that design, you need those tools and sites and information to help you along the way. So let's go ahead and take a look at those sites. First up, I highly recommend the go-to is Mozilla Developer Network. They've been doing this since 2005, and I've been using them ever since 2008 once I graduated from university. Their information is up to date and it's constantly changing for the student or seasoned professional that needs to keep their skills honed. References that I use and recommend are HTML, your CSS, your JavaScript, learning about what HTTP a protocol is, all the new web APIs and connecting different resources, and also what else is in the terms of world and the web technologies. For instance, if we go to HTML, they give you a very detailed explanation about what the language is, different syntax that make up the language, and key resources. You can find out how the syntax is created and why it's created in a certain way, with combining text and images to help you along the way as a foundation. My second go-to would be W3 Schools. Those piggybacks along the way from Mozilla in the fact that they still cover HTML, CSS, and JavaScript as a foundation for web developers, but they also allow you to test your knowledge as you're going through and learning about the language. You can practice your skills in a built-in IDE that allows you to change your content and see the output being created. And so here with HTML, we're given this is a heading and they give you a paragraph. And if I was to then add a second paragraph, I can then run my code and verify that the output is correct. You're not limited to those 3 languages. W3 Schools offers language learning in Python and your C++, your C#, your PHP, your SQL, your MySQL, and all the different languages that could be configured depending on your direction in study. And because I focus on the basic front-end development, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, my third recommendation is Codecademy. Now they do offer a free plan, but they also have a paid plan as well, which gets you more in-depth content, more pro content projects to build, And this is something that would, if you feel like you're gaining that information, that you would then try to sign up for a paid account. But they catalog is very extensive, just like W3 Schools, having the HTML and CSS, having the foundational learning courses that walk you through step by step. They have instructions that you need to complete, and as you complete those instructions, it lets you move on to the next task. This is great for beginning students that need a push in the direction and then know where to go from there. You can dive into intermediate courses, and on that paid version, they have things like learning SAS, which is a preprocessor for CSS, learning design colors and so forth. But you're not limited to just the HTML and CSS. They've got quite a bit of other languages that cross-reference with W3 Schools. And then in my fourth recommendation is CSS Tricks. They've been around, I believe, since 2007, 2008. And the creator, Chris Coyier, has constantly been changing and developing the site and adding more as year goes on, and just some of the details that you can see that are happening here. As a beginning student, like, how do I go about and replicate this information, or how do I replicate this actual design here and how this functions? This site has so many different resources, guides. Their almanac is spectacular in terms of CSS and how this looks and how do these actually work together. Information and examples, and which leads me to my last resource, Codepin, which is something that Chris Coyier from CSS Tricks has created, where then you can take your content and actually put it into practice into a on-the-fly sort of built-in IDE here. You can start off, you can create a free account with Codepin where you can practice your HTML, your CSS, and your JavaScript to hone those front-end web developer skills and see an output as you do that. And one other thing that I like about Codepin as my go-to last resource is that they have challenges. Every student needs that next step. Where do they want to go? And how can they test their knowledge? The challenges they have, some are very challenging, some are very simple. This one here in June is all about numbers. Last week they talked about counters, positive, negative numbers, and now they're into even and odd. So how can you take that content and actually apply it here in your knowledge? I'd highly recommend that you take the time to sign up with an account with them. You can sign up with your Twitter, your GitHub, Facebook, or even email and get you started with Codepin. Which leads me to the last topic of the day, is that we're going to start the next video and we're going to cover how to actually use Codepin and how to take those resources and use them to your knowledge here in Codepin. Until next time, thanks for watching.